Welcome to another tutorial for Jenkins X. Today I'm going to show you how you can install CJXD version 6 on EKS. So one of the things you're seeing now is I am just letting you know the version I have and also showing you on my browser that I don't have any resources on EKS. So I have a pretty clean account. And you can see if I go into clusters, there's nothing there. So I'm going to create my cluster. First thing I do, using the EKS cuttle, create cluster command. Remember, you can create your cluster however clusters are created in a given cloud in your company, whatever process you choose to adopt. That is perfectly fine as long as RBAC is enabled, and in my case I actually have administrative control of this account. You don't need that. You just need to be able to create resources when executing this this EKS cuttle command, right? I know there are some of you that have highly regulated environments and process heavy environment, so please do choose the best way to create your cluster. I think the point to take home is you don't have to worry about, we're separating the install of Jenkins X with from the installation of the cluster or the creation or provisioning, right? So we'll wait for this to happen. And just a little fun fact, I'm actually recording this from Spain and Madrid as we meet with the core team, Jenkins X, and including the CJXD team that produces the stable distribution of the open source. So it's been quite fun, and I plan to share that on the newsletter with you. So look out for that. If you are not subscribed, do consider subscribing. I provide a lot of technical in-depth information there. So let's see, yes. So what's happening in the background here? Well, we are using CloudFormation templates to provision your cluster. And so just know that there are a few stacks in the browser. If I go to the browser, you'll see a few CloudFormation stacks, templates that we create and then deploy. So the other thing I want to show you is I've created the cluster, so I will fill in the name of the cluster name and a couple other things here, approvers, the name of the cluster. Also making sure in my case public repos are enabled, because I don't want to use private repos for this demo. Further down, key thing, this right here has to be configured. TLS needs to be enabled in a custom domain. I have a custom domain that's not a Google domain, but I did some NS entries to point them to the Google servers. And of course the vault configuration. This is, you need to have a real account. So IAM username needs to have a real value. There are some keys that get created temporarily. Also, you need to have the CJXD 6 version, as you can see. And now we're ready to execute JXboot. So in case you didn't or were not aware, JXboot initiates a pipeline locally running, and it's a Tecton pipeline. It's based on the Jenkins-X.yaml file there on the left navigation. If you ever wonder, you can also skip some steps. If you're executing JXboot multiple times, you can always start the pipeline at a given step by simply passing -s and the name of the step, which you can find in the YAML file. Okay, looks like we are on track here. There's a lot of things happening in the background. Like I said, storage, S3 buckets are being created. You can see building the service account for the cluster. There's actually a template that you can, I'll put it on the video description. There's a CloudFormation template that you can see, so you can clearly see what is being provisioned or what is being used when you execute JX boot, right? So cert manager, since I said I want TLS, cert manager is being provisioned and configured, as well as the external DNS. We won't worry about Valero now. That's on another post or video. It is how you might consider backing up your cluster, and we'll probably make it part of a webinar session. If you haven't found the webinar sessions, the hands-on demonstration, subscribe to the JenkinsX YouTube channel. I do have that on the playlist, and I highly recommend you take some time to view some of these videos. They're quite helpful and still relevant. So our pipeline is still running. It will take a little while, of course. That's to be expected. And while that happens, I will show you the let's see, I'm gonna go to the YouTube channel. Yeah. So here's the YouTube channel where we have all of the different playlists. Like I said, we have one for office hours, the webinar, and a few other ones, the tutorials. This is where I put some tutorials like this one, which I'll be uploading into this playlist, and then you'll have the ability to quickly watch it. So let's see. Okay, our Nginx controller is being installed and configured. And I'm intentionally not pausing this video because I want you to see the full experience. So feel free to forward as you wish to see the end result. And in fact, I'll pause it because I actually know it takes way too long, so I want to keep the file size short here on the video. And since I specified a custom domain, like I said, I created NS entries in my domain host with the values that I would have for the Google. Like I actually have a delegated zone in Google Cloud DNS. So that's how I did it. And whenever I create a cluster for Google, that's how it's handled. For in our scenario today, doing AWS and EKS, then this is Route 53. And boot will actually create the entry for you. You don't need to do that. I'll show you here. There it is. It's a managed zone with all the right entries. And you can take the values of that NS record there and redirect, create the entry in your host domain provider to forward accordingly. So now we're in the install cert manager CRDs. So we have some custom CRDs for cert manager, and that's being provisioned as well. Let's see. In the end, what we want to see is a message that says everything looks good in your cluster. And we'll get there. So now we're installing Vault. And in the background, actually, Vault requires, for some reason, Dynamo tables and EKS. Those will be created, as you can see there, and a few other things. So it's being provisioned now. The endpoint in Vault will be with the custom domain, but the cool thing is I can click through and see progress at the different levels of all of the resources that are being created, right? And we provide you that link right in the terminal, so you can, if you want to see more detail on status and progress, just click on the link like I did. And again, we are using CloudFormation, a stack, to provision Vault in this case. So once this is done, I believe it's going to also try to make sure that all of the pods are up and running. So we'll get some output here on the terminal that lets you know we're checking for all of this to be up and running. So Vault was created. The instance of Vault is now created. And now we're waiting for Vault to be unsealed, as you could see. Many people panic when they see this message for a while. Don't. Typically, there's some stuff going on in the background or so. So if your DNS entry is fairly new and needs to propagate, there's a lot of things to consider. My recommendation, and I do this, I just wait a bit before making sure propagation is across, and then configure EKS, right? So here we're done. Now I'll type in my password for JenkinsX, or the global admin password, and username, and actually I think the default is admin for the username. So now it's just the password. All right, and so I have a bot account, I have a GitHub org, and I have my own personal GitHub account. That's typically what you want to do. Now it's going to ask you to create the there's some webhooks that get created. There's the secrets and config files that get created. And now it's just installing the core Jenkins X. And just for a little insight, I'm executing the JX boot command in the root directory of my config, aka dev repo. Right, that's what you're seeing here in Visual Studio Code. So far, so good. I think we're almost done. Check progress here. So here's what I mentioned earlier. I have this custom or created Jenkins X org in GitHub. You can see that. And then my bot account is this one here. So notice that I have to specify that when I'm installing Jenkins X, because that bot account is actually the one that does interact with you on GitHub, PR comments and all that, and you use the different chat ops capabilities, right, to approve pull requests, trigger a pipeline, and all of these other prow-like commands that are actually prow related. So they have several that you can look at on their site. All right. We'll pause this for a minute. Might take a while. So our dev repo was validated, all looks good. It was just forked by the bot account, or with the bot account. And now we're just validating and creating the different repositories on GitHub, right? Your staging and production repositories. Here we have installing the pipeline, so all of the Tecton CRDs that we have. And if you see the word owner there, when you're configuring the owner, it is the GitHub organization that it refers to. I think that caused a bit of confusion. So here we are. Let's take a look at all the pods. It looks like they're running. There may be, looks like we're waiting for some. Okay. And that's it. It is done. Let's mark that a success. And that's basically how you install CJXD 6 on EKS.